News Live special. Normally we're doing the Deadline Horror News live that we do every Wednesday night here on the YouTube channels at 9 p.m. But instead of that, we decided just to do this little special because we all had some stuff going on. So Smoke and I came on here to record this little bit, kind of an intro to set up what we're about to show you. Before we get into that, I want to remind you that episode 108 just came out this past Monday, and that was our latest Spookshow spotlight on home video. We call it home video part one because we know there's going to be at least 2 or 3 more parts of that, right? And then next week is episode 109. That will be Hellraiser 3, Hell on Earth. So we're dipping our toes back into the Hellraiser series. It's kind of a wild card selection instead of one of us picking it. We just kind of went back to the series so we could stay in the rotation. And of course, later this month on Crafterpiece Theater over on Patreon, we're going to have No Holds Barred. So we still got that coming later this month. Don't forget, starting in June next month, I think it's episode 111. We're going to have Camp Spookshow, where basically for 2 months throughout the summer, all of our movies will be summer camp movies. So we got lots coming up. Don't forget, next Wednesday night at 9, hopefully, if everything goes well, we'll be back to the normal live Deadline Horror News. But basically, the setup here is we're going to talk about your trip that you took back in late March, I believe it was, right?
Yeah. This end of this past March to Universal Studios in Orlando.
For Patreon, you recorded 2 separate videos, and the first one that you did was where you visited a shop there in Universal Studios in Orlando called like the Voodoo Boutique or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's some store that they have there that used to be open for Halloween Horror Nights, and they had horror-related things in there for that, of course, and then they just kept it after the fact, and still have somewhat of a horror-related flavor to it, but it's it's kind of, they went with a voodoo theme at that point because it was Mardi Gras going on in Universal Studios at that time.
But the second video that you did, which we're about to show you here in just a few minutes, was where you visited the Monstrous Cafe there in Universal Studios Orlando. And we just recently learned the news that they were permanently closing it down, right?
Yes, unfortunately, yes. And the last day was this past Friday the 13th.
Wow.
Friday the 13th of May was the last day for Monsters Cafe, unfortunately. But I don't know exactly what's going to happen when they're building a new, separate park there in the part of the Universal family, so to speak, down there in Orlando, and it's supposed to be a monsters themed part of that park. So I'm guessing that they just closed this down because they're probably going to be opening something up there. I don't know. There's nothing really a whole lot been announced about that, but it makes sense. But I hate to see it go because just as you'll see when you watch this video, you'll see all the cool stuff they had in there. So if you never went inside there or seen inside it before, unfortunately, you won't be able to see it again, I guess, except for through videos. Unfortunately, but so we could talk about what it was going to. If you want to, I'll throw it back to you to what it may be after the Monsters Cafe.
Well, we had heard some rumblings that it might be Minions or something like that, right? So, that's what they might be turning it into, some Minions-themed restaurant or something like that.
Yes, the rumors supposedly going around. There's already a Minions / Despicable Me ride there, and then I believe that Shrek 4D had closed. Well, I know Shrek 4D did close, and that is also supposed to be something Minions related. So they'll have more Minions than you can count, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I guess progress. It sucks sometimes to lose cool stuff like this, especially since there's not a lot of horror-related stuff there, right? You hate to lose one more big one.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I know they'll have that, that the monsters, totally separate related monsters themed part of the new park, but yeah, always, I hate to see classic stuff leave the original park. Like, back to, we talked about it before when we were talking about this, I think on one of the episodes, but Back to the Future, when that closed and then they turned it into the Simpsons ride. Being an old schooler, I hate to see classic stuff shut down. Or like Terminator, for instance, it turned into a Bourne Experience, I believe it's called, which we just rode, or if you want to call it ride, it's sort of a movie-based, it's got some motion in it, but whatever the case. We just did that for the first time on this past trip that where I recorded this. So Not as cool as Terminator, but I mean, it was, it's still an experience. It's still good. And I'm sure that when they turn this into something else, I'm not going to like it as much, of course, but we'll see what happens.
Well, at least you were able to go down there, unbeknownst to you. This will be the last time you get to go check it out. But at least you did get to go there and kind of document what it was and everything, and we used it. So we're going to go ahead and air that now. So, if you've never had a chance to go see it, this is your opportunity. And plus, too, it's kind of like, we're leaving this on the YouTube channel for posterity's sake. So in the future, 2, 3, 10 years down the road, if you want to come back and watch it, it's here. So I guess I'll go ahead and toss to your library segment that you did back in April, where you visited Universal Studios Orlando's Monsters Cafe.
And now it's time for a curated selection from the Library of the Professor.
Welcome to another shocking edition of the Library of the Professor, here on location in sunny Orlando, Florida, and I'm at Universal Studios, as you saw, at the Monsters Cafe. And join me as we go inside. We'll take a little tour of the cafe.
So we're starting out in the space dining section of the classic Monsters Cafe. And in here, you get a lot of items from, of course, classic sci-fi movies. This one being the Metaluna Mutant from This Island Earth. In fact, This Island Earth is probably the prime focus of this room. There's another poster of the Metaluna Mutant from This Island Earth. Over here on this wall, we have this awesome little display of laser blasters. And here's some memorabilia from the movie Tarantula. Once again, another Metaluna Mutant from This Island Earth. And another full-size one sheet from the movie Tarantula. And up on the roof, spiders. And that wraps up the space dining area, so we'll go to a different area now. And in here we have the mansion dining, which is primarily Dracula. Poster for House of Dracula. House of Dracula being the one where John Carradine played Dracula. Excellent portrait of Bela Lugosi as Dracula by Basil Gogo. So here's the main entrance to the Monsters Cafe, where you walk in is basically like Dr. Frankenstein's laboratory. It's where you walk up and order your food. And off to the sides, to the corners, they have these awesome busts. This one, of course, is the creature from the Black Lagoon. And these busts were all designed and sculpted by none other than Tom Savini. There's a sculpture of Karloff as the mummy, again by Tom Savini. And here we have swamp dining, which of course is going to be Creature from the Black Lagoon. Another excellent painting from Basil Gogol of the creature. Poster for the sequel, The Creature Walks Among Us. So this is another section of the swamp dining. And in here is, of course, the Wolfman. So we covered the Wolfman on episode 61 of the podcast. And of course, episode 61, the Wolfman, is the one where we all got together and recorded it in Spookshow Studios. So I'm going to wrap up this special episode of Library of the Professor in the back room here at Monsters Cafe, which I believe is still part of the mansion dining.
Come back next time for another curated selection from the Library of the Professor.